Welcome back to the Jackie Kaminsky Experience, where we break down the biggest myths, mistakes, and strategies in sports nutrition so you can actually perform at your best. Joining us today is one of the most sought after names in the fitness world, Joe Dowdell. Over the past 30 years, Joe's trained elite clientele that includes some of my favorites, Gerard, Butler, Natalie, Portman, 50 Cent, and Anne Hathaway, and among tons of others. His experience spans from celebrities to pro athletes to see in top fashion models, all drawn from his no BS, science-backed approach. Joe is the founder and CEO of Peak Performance, a 10,000 square foot private training facility, once ranked number 3 gym in America by Men's Health. He is the creator of Dowdell Fitness Systems, an online training platform for serious self-starters, and he's also a published author, a national lecturer, and a featured expert in men's health, Vogue, women's health, and muscle and fitness. Shit, Joe. So whether it's from the pages of fitness magazines or the stages of national conferences, Joe brings deep credibility to every conversation. And today he's helping us unpack a critical topic: how to spot fake experts before they ruin your progress, and sharing what he's learned from working with some of the best in the business. Thank you so much for joining today, Joe.
I'm excited, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
Did I kill that intro? Did I do it well for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm honored because I've seen some of who the other guests are, and this is great.
Well, for everyone who doesn't know you, can you start by sharing how you kind of got started in the space of health and fitness and how your fitness career began?
Yeah, I kind of came into it more of a roundabout way. So I kind of started on the other side in front of the camera, and I was doing that during college and after college. And then I was at a crossroads and trying to figure out what I wanted to do next with my career. And at the time, my ex girlfriend was working out with a trainer, and I would always go to the gym at the same time. So one day when she was down in the locker room getting her stuff, we started chatting, and he started saying to me that, you should check out becoming a strength coach or a personal trainer. And I was intrigued. So he kind of helped, put me in the right direction. And then I never looked back, like literally, like as soon as I started doing it, I fell in love with it. And all I did after that was basically travel around, go to conferences and do certifications and sign up for mentorships and internships, and was fortunate to really kind of be mentored by some like, old guard, like names like Charles Poliquin and Tom Purvis and Dr. Mel Siff, or a few people. I actually went and slept on Dr. Mel Siff's basement floor for 3 days. So he wrote this book called Super Training for people that might not know. Anyway, yeah, so I mean, that's kind of how I got into it. I fell in love with it. Now, at my current age, I am enrolled in my getting my master's degree in strength training and high performance in sports. More because I just really wanted to do it. Like a
Hmm.
bucket list thing for me because I don't won't really have a direct bearing, so to speak, on my business because I've been doing it for so long. But it's
Hmm.
more about me just kind of feeling like, okay, this is something I accomplished, and maybe it will probably add a level of credibility for more speaking engagements, things like that.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, watching, Joe still maintains a 12 pack with like 8% body fat, all in the gym and all in the kitchen. This is not plastic surgery.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is like, I know this like it's a very sensitive topic, but when I owned a gym and I had 50 trainers that worked for me. So, and I always would say to my trainers, like, listen, it's great to have unbelievable amount of knowledge, and what's really important is not just having the knowledge, but being able to actually apply it effectively on the training floor, because I've seen trainers that can come in with some great theoretical knowledge and then not really know how to execute that on the training floor. We've also seen people that kind of can, seem like they know what they're doing on the training floor, but not really have a very good theoretical knowledge. So kind of go both ways. And I was always said that the best package you can have is theoretical knowledge, the ability to apply that knowledge effectively, and also to look like you apply it on yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to be shredded. It doesn't mean to be you have to be, the biggest guy in the gym, or the most ripped woman in the gym. It just means that when people look at you, it looks like that you know how to apply the things that you're trying to get them to. And a lot of times it's very motivating for them when they see you, because a lot of clients sometimes pick you because they aspire to sort of get into the sort of shape that you're in. It doesn't mean that someone who's not in that great a shape can't be a fantastic trainer and have an incredible career, but I always looked at it as how I present myself is my business card, because that's
I
what
think
people see.
100%. And I mean, going through school, that was always a conversation we had in our classes, right? That, as a fitness and health professional, should you look the part? My answer was always yes. You are the platform, the spokesperson for everything that you're preaching. You need to be able to also show that you're applying that to yourself and following in your own footsteps, or else why is somebody else going to? It's if you go to the doctor and they're saying, hey, you need to lose 50 pounds, but they're overweight and then walking outside smoking a cigarette.
It's exactly
Well,
that.
that's, you're completely getting rid of all credibility that you have.
Imagine going to like a doctor who specializes in obesity, and they're there to teach you how to sort of combat that, and meanwhile they're like 350. Like,
Why would you listen? You're not going to listen to any of their
I mean,
advice.
you could be the head of the department, and that's amazing, but you kind of also say to yourself, okay, but if you are this knowledgeable and this smart, what is it, and why aren't you applying it to yourself? There's only a couple of reasons. One, it could be, I mean, it could be a legitimate health reason, right? But usually it's more like they're just not making the time to do it.
You're not making the time. It's not a value for
And that
them.
says a lot about that, right? If they're not willing to put the time into themselves, then how are they going to be willing to put the time into you? Because like it's not, it's it's somebody else, right? Like we
100%.
always put more time into us, right?
Yeah. Circling back a little bit, because we're talking today about how to spot a fake expert. And I feel that, especially your experience in Hollywood, you were in New York for quite a while, you've been around so many interesting people that definitely don't just pick anybody. They're very particular about who they choose to work with. So, what were some of the unique challenges when you were training celebrities? And how did you tailor programs for those clients, like with such demanding schedules?
Well, it's funny. It's kind of like, so you can look at it too, the same thing as people that like strength coaches that work with athletes. We all want to, like, if you're a strength coach and I want to work with athletes, great. But you don't just start out working with like, NFL and NHL players. You probably start out working with youth athletes or high school athletes, right? I didn't just start out working with celebrities right out of the gate. I had to work with other people, and then I kind of like worked with somebody in the fashion industry who was a big stylist because I had contacts in that side of the industry. And little by little, you start to build your name recognition and your own personal brand. And usually, what it leads to is getting the one opportunity for the one client and being ready to meet that moment, right? And because you can get people to come through the door and you can maybe get the opportunity, but if you don't execute well on that opportunity, the opportunity doesn't going to come back all the time, right? So it's kind of like, okay, if you're a fake expert, let's call it that, you may get those opportunities, but when the rubber hits the road, you may not be getting the results that this person wants,
Hmm.
and that's going to sort of like close doors, right? In other words, they might not recommend other athletes or other celebrities or other, high target clients.
So for you and your experience, I guess working especially with the higher profile people, is everything, and I think it's the same for athletes too, is it all results driven? Like, would you agree that everything is results?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, like the difference between working with regular people and working with athletes and celebrities is quite often you have a timeline, right? So there's a time that they need to be ready for. So with athletes it might be a little different, but with celebrities, sometimes you have to cut corners and not do things like the optimal perfect way because you don't have the time. Like in other words, maybe they have some sort of, I don't know, range of motion limitation, whatever, but they got 6 weeks to get ready for a movie, and they're hiring me to get them ready for a movie or to get them ready for to walk the runway for VS, something like that. They're not hiring me to fix their like, lack of depth in the squat.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do that when we have more time. So you kind of have to work around maybe what their limitations are in order to still get them to their goal as fast as possible, right? Because that's what they're hiring you for.
So I think, go ahead.
Yeah, good. So
No, I was
yeah, I
gonna
mean,
say, I think that's like a really interesting point that you're making, because I feel that a lot of people, when they are analyzing a coach or a expert, I mean, again, everything is results driven, but it's the results that the client are seeking in that time period. So you're saying, hey, you're evaluating your client, you're recognizing they have X, Y, and Z limitations. X, Y, and Z can be fixed, but with the timeline that we're given, that's not necessarily realistic. And your main goal is, well, you're about to be in a bikini because it's a surfing movie and you need to be 14% body fat if it's a woman, or, like 7% body fat as a dude. Your muscles need to be popping. You need to be really shredded. You need to look the part. I think the same goes for me and my clients. Like, I have fighters, and it's, you giving me 6 weeks to make weight. I would love to make you healthy and make you a high performing athlete. But if we got to cut 40 pounds, I got to get the weight off any which way I can. Like, it's not going to be, to your point, optimizing you.
I mean, you might mention these things to them in the beginning, like say, hey, listen, this is what I noticed, and maybe when we have more time, we can look at these things and address it, right? Same with you. It's like, hey, like we're gonna be trying to cut a lot of calories and kind of get you lean, get you down so you can make this weight. But ultimately, we don't want you to start out at 40 pounds overweight for every fight camp because, it's not going to be good for you in the long run, right? So same thing, like, we can cut these corners right now, but long term, you might want to address these things like, oh yeah, his person has shoulder issues, but they need to have their chest needs to look good. So, okay, so how can we still do that while try to minimize like, aggravating their shoulder or aggravating their knee, you know what I mean? So a lot of times it's about being able to kind of navigate those things and sometimes being able to call an audible on what you might want to do. And also, like athletes, with a lot of celebrities, you're dealing with a lot of personalities. And you know so that's a little challenging as well sometimes, and you're not only dealing with the celebrity. A lot of times, sometimes you're dealing with the publicist, and you're dealing with the agent, and you're dealing with like there's not just like that person. A lot of times there's like a team, right?
Yeah. Just out
So
of curiosity, with the celebrities, were all of their goals always aesthetically based? Or did they have, strength or performance, or, just bettering their movement? Were there other outcomes that they were looking for? Or was everything mostly aesthetic for the celebrities?
an interesting actor that I worked with this actor named Richard Armitage, and I worked with him on the Hobbit series, the three movies, right? And obviously, he was the king of the dwarves, right? So he's not doesn't need to look ripped, right? But he's wearing all this body armor, and he's carrying around this heavy like battle axe, and he's got to do these fight scenes. So for him, it was a little bit more like being strong and also being conditioned enough to do these scenes.
Oh, wow.
And there was a whole thing where they did this fake fight on ice, moving ice. So we had to like yeah. So you sometimes you get these really interesting things like that. But generally speaking, a lot of them are coming in because they want to look better, faster for the film, or especially for models. It's really mostly all about how they look. I mean,
100%.
most of them could really care less about being able to run 5. Doesn't matter to them.
Yeah, it doesn't matter then.
Not gonna put like $100,000 check in their bank. You know what I mean?
So true. So with that though, because I think it's so interesting. I know you said, like, in like anything, right? If you want to work with athletes, if you want to work with high level professionals, it's always about working your way up. I mean, unless
Yeah.
you're part of some business or organization that there's a high amount of nepotism going on. So just because you're in the family, you get the
Correct.
job.
Yes.
But I mean, still, to be in those circles, there needs to be a lot of trust. So for you, what was it that you recognized that made them trust you and keep coming back to you, especially as that referral network grew stronger? I mean, these are people that have clearly worked with so many different individuals. They know they have their own bullshit meter, right? They're in the industry, so it doesn't matter who they're working with.
Yeah.
So for you, what was it that kind of allowed them to build that trust and that comfort with you right off the bat to allow you to keep growing your clientele?
Interesting thing about that world is most of the time these people don't come to you cold, right? They're coming because somebody recommended you.
Mm-hmm.
That helps a lot. You already have like somebody who's already said put a stamp of approval on you, right? And so it's a little different like than just cold trying, getting somebody and dealing with them that way. So when they come in, they do typically have a little bit more of a trust factor because somebody they know worked with them or worked with you, and they talked about how great it was, whatever. So that always helps. But the other thing about working with them is a lot of times they're in and out of town. They're not necessarily consistent clients, right? So you could work with them for 8 weeks and then you might not see them for 6 months. So it's like this, it doesn't provide a lot of stability unless you have a pretty good revolving door of those clients, right?
Or they're paying you and taking you with them everywhere they go.
Yeah. So I had a couple of good incidences like that, right? So like, I went with Brittany on tour, right? So that
That's
was
my girl.
this is back when she was doing like In the Zone. So when at the height of her the song Toxic. And then I got hired once to work with one of the Saudi royal family. So they flew me to London
Wow.
and yeah, put me up like incredible hotel in Hyde Park. So those are like the really amazing, like wild, like, this is like not reality kind of thing, moments. But they're not all like that. Most of them
Yeah.
like you're working in the gym and you're grinding and I had clients where I had to go to their apartment at 4:30 in the morning and I'm standing outside in the pouring rain, buzzing them and they overslept and I'm getting drenched and like, you know what I mean? Like, but they can't, the only time they can do it is at 4:45 because they have to be on set to shoot the TV show at 7.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So,
how, can you just out of curiosity, how long were you, those periods where you were traveling, how long would that be for you?
so like with Brittany, it was only a few weeks kind of thing.
Okay.
With this, uh, with the Saudi guy, it was like supposed to be 6 weeks. It was ended up being shorter, but it was a 6 week gig. Yeah. So, and most of the other things were more like, quick trips for clients, right? I mean, it was a little hard for me because a lot of times at the time I owned the gym, so I was also had a lot of clients that I was like, it was really hard for me to like,
You pulled away from
hey,
that for too long.
up and leaving, and sorry, I'm going to give you this trainer, that trainer, that. Yeah, so it was a little difficult. I mean, there are other trainers that like don't own a gym, and it's really easy for them because they can literally like, you know, pick up and go wherever that client wants them to do, and that's kind of nice to have that freedom. And was one time offered something like that with a person very very powerful in the tech world.
Hmm.
I just didn't want to be tied to one person,
Yeah,
like
that makes
one
sense.
client, like at their like disposal 24/7. Like, sure, the money's great, but you kind of lose a lot of sense of freedom then, you know what I
Well,
mean?
because you're completely on their schedule. It's like when I go away for fight camps, and at this point, I'm like a week, two max, because if you want me out there for a month, you're on their timetable. So you have to completely organize your day around their schedule. If something changes, you got to be ready to go with the flow. You just have to be available. You have to be able to change on a whim, just do whatever they want. Like, so yeah, it's exhausting for sure.
Yeah, and it's like, and what if you're just not like don't really enjoy being around that person all the time,
That's
right?
so
Like,
true.
you know what I mean? Like, luckily, in the beginning, listen, when you're beginning in the industry, beggars can't be choosers, right? Clients come in, you take everybody because
Hmm.
you're just trying to build up your time on the floor and, getting better as a coach and, dealing with all sorts of, different personalities and, that's good to learn that way. But after a while, you start to learn how to pick and choose, right?
100%.
I had a few clients in the beginning where like I just dreaded that hour 3 days a week. Like it was like literally because I knew it was just going to be a pity party when they walked in the door and all they did was talk about how horrible their day was and how horrible their boss was. And that's exhausting.
That's emotionally, you have to give up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it drains you. You're like, oh my God. And then the rest of your, after that session's over, you're just like destroyed. Like you just
Mhm.
kind of like,
And
you don't
then
have the energy for anybody else.
no, the rest of the day you're like, "Oh my God, I need somebody else to kind of help liven up the environment a little bit."
Totally, or like you need like time to rewind from all of that, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
100%.
but
So
yeah,
kind of moving forward a little bit. You've been in the space forever. You've worked with other trainers. You had a gym. You brought trainers into your gym. You're based in Miami now, which is saturated with people.
yeah, it's it's saturated um with bodies and
Hmm.
like I mean, I was actually very surprised when I moved here. I was expecting there to be a higher level of training.
So this is what I was getting to. I mean, I feel like especially in Miami, I was gonna say we have a lot of TikTok influencers slash social media influencer slash experts. So in a world that we live in where there's so much misinformation circling, but because somebody looks good or has good videography or whatever content that they're putting out on social media, for you, what are common red flags that indicate someone might not be a qualified expert? Like for you, what is, especially for personal training side, right? What is like the first telling sign if you're talking to somebody and right off rip, you're saying you definitely don't know what you're talking about. You've just made this up.
I mean, a lot of it, I mean, first of all, like it's more of not talking to them, it's just more about watching.
Hmm.
I mean, if someone's on their phone the entire time when they're training somebody and they're like, like this, and they're not watching the client like every rep they're doing and like watching their form and not just standing in one place, but moving around the client, looking at different angles. Like you don't, when you're coaching somebody, you're supposed to be like moving around them, watching from different angles, because you can't see everything from one direction, right? And also like when you're coaching somebody, the focus is on them. That's who they're the most important person. It's not who's texting you, it's not who's commenting on your social media, IG post, And I also see especially down here in Miami. First of all, I see, like I said, I was not impressed at all. And I've trained at a lot of gyms down here now at this point. There definitely are some places that might have a slightly higher level of like overall, but I found in New York the quality of training was much higher.
Of just kind of, watching them and seeing, making sure that they're paying attention to their client. Because, right to your point, that's okay, if you have the knowledge, now you have to apply it. So the whole way to apply it is by watching who you're working with to make sure that they're executing what you're telling them to do correctly. So, what would be additional things that for you, you immediately recognize this is not someone who's highly qualified or they're a low level trainer. And for people who are listening, how can clients kind of protect themselves from this information or pay attention to what's going on so they know now how to spot an unqualified person?
I think the big thing is the questions you ask initially in the very beginning, right? Like, what's your background? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, did you go to school for this? No, if you didn't go to school and get your degree, what certifications did you get? Are you somebody who continues to go to conferences and seminars? Most of let's call them influencer trainers, like kind of,
Mm-hmm.
most of them are not they're not going and continuing education. Many of them might not even have a certification. They are, maybe they're good looking, or maybe they're, just completely, maybe they're just like jacked up on roids, and you know what I mean? And because they're like a busy trainer in the gym, people are like, oh, he must be good, or she must be good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know what I mean? Like, I also like, are they like you look at the client too, like afterwards when you're in the gym. If it's somebody who's completely out of shape, like overweight, and you got them basically sitting there doing straight sets of bench press, like clearly, I mean, I don't know the person's goal, like what they specifically asked, but just from a looking back thing, maybe this is not the best approach for this person because
Mm-hmm.
they clearly need to lose about 100 pounds. And sitting 3 minutes and resting between sets might not be the route to get them to that. Now, maybe I don't know, maybe they said they don't want to do that. Okay. But for the most part, my guess is that's not why they're there. Right.
No, 100%. And I think going back to what you said earlier is I'm not asking the right questions. I know that, I mean, am I a personal trainer by any means? No, but I'm knowledgeable enough because, my background's in exercise physiology. I've worked with tons of trainers. But to your point, I can recognize when I have someone who's not that great when our first session, they're not asking me any questions. You just walk into the gym, they put you on a machine. There's no, do you have any injuries? What are your limitations? What do you want to work on? What are your goals? And they're just throwing heavy weight on. There's no warm up, there's no mobility. And so to me, I'm like, you don't know what you're doing or talking about, and this is how this is going to lead to somebody getting hurt.
Yeah. Because a lot of people, because they're maybe not qualified or they're insecure about their abilities, their idea of a good workout is crushing somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and that's definitely a recipe for disaster. But part of like, I have a very thorough intake process, right? And most of the really good trainers that I know, they do too,
Take us
right?
take
Like,
us through your intake process or just like an overview of it so people who are paying attention that these are things that they can start to be like, oh, well,
yeah.
my trainer's
So
not doing that. My trainer's not doing that.
the first thing is just usually kind of like I mean, I work with clients one on one, or maybe I'll work with a couple.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm working, let's call it like not online. Right? Like in other words, I have
In
clients that I work
person.
with one on one, but when I take on a personal client, whether it's online or it's in person or it's a hybrid of the two, it's a different process than like if somebody just signs up for one of my programs. I don't really talk to them, whatever. If they email me, I have a question, I answer it. But when I work with somebody like personally, the first thing we do is do a quick call because I want to find out if this is somebody I want to work with. I'm kind of interviewing them, to be honest. I want to find out, is this somebody who personality I mesh with? Is this somebody who, is somebody who's kind of driven? Or is this somebody who I really want to help? And or is this somebody who's really interesting and like a really interesting like now I'm working with a below the knee amputee, right? So it's a
Wow,
really yeah, it's a really interesting, great guy, amazing, and he's a triathlete, so it's really fun.
that's crazy.
But like it's challenging. But I was like, oh, this is great. This is challenging. I want to do this. You know what I mean? But it's first call, great. Here, I'm going to send you Google Forms, client data, client health history. One's like a client intake data form. One's a health history form. One is a, kind of policies, liability waiver kind of form. And the fourth one is a contract. I make all my clients sign a 12-week contract, and because I don't work like normal trainers, like I don't
Hmm.
do packages, I work on a monthly retainer.
Hmm.
And in that retainer, they're allowed X amount of sessions that they can do in that 4 weeks. If they don't complete those sessions in the 4 weeks, they don't roll over to the next month. So it kind of puts them also like it puts them in a position where they need to take ownership of their own stuff too.
Hmm.
I find when trainers do this like packages of 20 or 10, you know, a client could take 6 months to complete that. Well, that client's never going to get results. So if you need to put if you really a client really wants to get results and you want to help that client get results, there needs to be some pressure.
Yeah. So what you're saying that, as a good trainer is going to ensure that whoever they're working with is motivated, they're showing up and they're taking ownership for their part in it too. So because the end game is that that client is going to want certain results and you're creating the parameters in order to achieve those results. And if you're not coming in and showing up to do the work with me, then it's not going to work out.
Yeah, and listen, like the contract is also me making a contract to them. It's not just
Hmm.
one way. In there, I outline what I'm going to be doing as well. So, you know what I mean? It's not like this, here this is all the things that you have to do. No, this is what I will be doing. This is how we are going to commit to each other. You know what I mean? Because I never want people to feel like I'm not like, involved in the process or like committed to the process, right? Like to me, everybody I take on, everything's all about that person, right?
Hmm.
Like I kind of almost function more like a fitness concierge in a way. Like if they are traveling to a hotel, give me the name of the hotel. I'll email the hotel, find out if they have a gym. If they have a gym, could you please send me pictures or can you send me a link?
Mm.
Then I'll create the program. Like I have a client right now in Madrid. I did that for his 2 weeks, all the hotels he's going to. I called up,
Wow.
emailed all the the concierges there, got all the information. If the gym was not adequate enough, I then did a search and found the closest gym that would work for us and provided him with all the information for that place. And and then I'll give a workout that I know I'll change the workout that we're normally doing to work for that next 2 weeks because I know what we have access to, right? And I'll still do a Zoom thing. It's 6 hours time difference, but I'll still be there for them
Yeah. So you're
because
basically outlining, yeah, what you're doing for them, and that's essentially what's creating that trust
yeah.
on your end. This is how you're building trust with your clients to show, hey, I'm showing you ahead of time what you're gonna get and the level of work that I'm putting in for you.
Also, I ask about what are the other things that you do? Like, do you like, in other words, they're coming to me and, just to do like, their training. Well, can you tell me what else the rest of your week looks like? And then I find out more. Maybe they go to Pilates. Maybe they go to yoga. Maybe they go hiking. So now we need to look at all these other things. And I'll say, okay, would you be open to me helping you map out this week so that it optimizes your training in all the different things that you want to do so you don't have to really cut anything out and we could just find a way to make it all fit together so it all works synergistically, right? So I will do that. I will then map out like, and if they're doing something like, I don't know, like a Barry's boot camp, really, and it might not be conducive to what we're doing, I'd say, would you be willing to maybe just for the next 4 weeks do this conditioning program that I've written up for you?
Hmm.
And then let's see how you feel after that 4 weeks.
After
Because
that, yeah.
they're coming and they might be like, oh, my knee always bothers. So, well, okay, yeah, but you're doing, I've been to Barry's boot camp, right?
Yeah.
I know.
You know why it's hurting his knee.
I mean, look, I'm sure some of them are better than others, and there's definitely always better instructors in every organization. So it's not a whole thing about just the whole organization. if someone's trying to attain certain goals, it can be very conflicting if they're going in and doing a Barry's thing the day before that we're training in the morning. Now they've already all fatigued from the day before doing this super high volume workout, and now they're coming into me, and now we're not going to be able to tap into the type of motor units that I want, the type of muscle fibers that I want. You know what I mean?
And I think
So
that's such an important point, just emphasizing that again, because I think they are, and I see it so much in the fighting space, right? Because fighters, strength and conditioning, right, is an accessory to the skill that they are building in boxing. But these coaches, when they don't know what they're doing, they just destroy their body. So by the time they get to a session where it's about building that skill and performing, they can't because they've either injured themselves, they're really sore, they've exhausted their body so much already. And so emphasizing that again, that a good coach is going to understand the rest of your schedule to see, because they only, right, you're only with them for a small period of time, but
they
you
know what
want
to
that time, you want to optimize that time with them for the broader goal and their full schedule. So to your point, yeah, if you know that they're killing themselves in the whatever boot camp they're doing the day before, you're either going to, like you said, ask them to kind of adjust that, or you're going to adjust what you do with them to make sure that you're not putting them in a more dangerous position for injury.
The other thing I think with a good trainer or good coach, strength coach, you, when I worked with my fighters, MMA fighters and jiu-jitsu guys, right? I went to see what they do at their other types of training so I could have an understanding of what they were doing in those things so that I could help sort of lay out where our strength training should be built into their week of, because they do so they do gi jiu-jitsu, they do no gi jiu-jitsu, they do boxing, they might, or kickboxing, a lot of these guys that I worked with, they had 3 workouts a day. So obviously nutrition is a huge part because you got to refuel for all these workouts. But it's depending on where we are in like leading up to a fight. Like if it's early on, we can say maybe the skill work is a little less intense right now. Let's us work on some strength and power work. Build a better foundation of strength,
Hmm.
because as they start getting closer to more of a fight, they have to reduce the volume of their strength work because their volume of skill work and actual specific training for fighting is going to increase exponentially, right?
100%.
So to your point, I think it's important that a good coach will understand these things. They will go look at these things. They will also invite the other coaches or send the program that you're doing to the nutritionist or invite them.
Collaboration is key.
I think really good strength coaches and really good personal trainers are not afraid to work with other practitioners. The trainers that I feel like are, let's call it, maybe a little bit insecure, they like to hover clients. They want to be the one. They do everything. They do the nutrition. They do the soft tissue work. They do do the yoga class. They're just so afraid of losing money. They're not really looking at what's best for the client. Like
And
for
they
me,
try and wear all the different hats, and it's
all
just
the
like
hats,
you're not an expert in nutrition when you're, the strength coach, or you don't know
or
how to,
rehab.
yeah, or
You know,
rehab, or yeah, exactly,
and
exactly.
so like for me, like for instance with you, like I don't listen. You're gonna do 100 times better job with somebody's nutrition and diet than I ever will.
And I'm
I
going to send
always
somebody to train with you because I'm not going to be able to advise them on how to work out appropriately.
always, my whole career, I've done nothing but always build up a network of other practitioners
Hmm.
that I always worked with, because the truth is clients respect that because you are sending them to another expert. And if a trainer or a coach is trying to do everything, I would kind of step back and say to myself, are they really the right person for all these things? Or is there, or might not be better to seek out somebody who is like legitimately an expert and focuses on this singly?
So do you have any examples in your personal experiences with clients who might have worked with somebody who did everything for them and then they came to you because they were like, this person really messed me up, or they got injured, or that bad advice led them to something really bad happening? Do you have like a story that you can kind of elaborate on for that?
Because of my sort of access, I mean, I've worked with plenty of like celebrities that worked with the big celebrity trainers in LA. I mean, when they
This is
came,
the tea now. This is the tea that I want.
I mean, when they came and like, The other thing you could tell about how if somebody was a good trainer is how well their client trains when they're not around.
So true. How, yeah,
So
how do they do on their own after the fact?
yeah, if I, if a client comes to me from like, this celebrity trainer in Hollywood and, we go to do exercise and I'm looking at their form and it's horrendous, right? I'm going, oh my God, okay. All right. Well, this is what this guy's all about. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing is like I didn't ever consider myself a celebrity trainer. I considered myself like a coach and thing, and who happened to train celebrities, right? Like I
Hmm.
never led with that. That's not how I don't market like actively market myself that way. I mean, maybe a little bit online I will now, but like normally no. For years I never did.
Hmm.
Like people ask me who I train, like I would never talk about who I trained unless it was already common knowledge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when I went with Brittany, I didn't talk about it. I had signed an NDA. It wasn't until like, the paparazzi followed us and took pictures and like, in England that where then it became knowledge, right? Like,
Yeah. But you
so
yourself, you're not bragging about
yeah,
who, yeah, who
you
you're
just
working
keep
with.
like, yeah, some of these people like they don't want people to know, like, and they don't want to be filmed. Like that's the other thing. Is like literally, I see trainers in the gym, and all they're doing is filming, filming, filming. Like, how can you actually pay attention and watch and coach if you're sitting there videoing like all the time?
That's been such a struggle for me too, because on one hand, from a business perspective, you have people telling you you need to talk about your roster, you need to, film with these clients, this is how you promote your business. And for me, I mean, I've been in this space and I've definitely been around trainers who, I'm not going to name him, but one in particular that every single time he was with somebody, there was a whole camera crew around them, because he's a big YouTube personality.
Yes.
And I would have these big name athletes, I'd start talking to them and they'd be like, I hated working out with him. It was the first time I met the guy and he had a whole camera crew on me the entire session. And because hearing that from them, I kind of almost like, same like you, I kept my cards close to my chest. Like I didn't brag about who I was working with and I'm not filming everything that we're doing. Like, let me establish a relationship first. I want to be engaged with you, listening to you, evaluating you. And maybe, okay, if we've been working together for a few years now and I'm at the gym while you're working out, I'd be like, yo, like, I got Christine, Hammer, Dave. I'm like, hey, can we snap a picture together? Like, oh, can we film something together? But that's already after a relationship has been established. And now there's like a level of friendship there. It's not right off rip. I have a full interview set going on.
Like same here. Like a lot of times, like it was them approaching me saying, "Hey, ET, Entertainment Tonight wants to do a spot, of me training. Would you
Mhm.
be sure?" Right? It's not me asking them. Like I never asked like any of my celebrity clients, "Hey, can we do this?" No, like that's not why they're coming to me.
No. And I think over time, clearly you've built that trust with them, and over time, these people were getting referred. And I think there was definitely an aspect to not doing that helped, that you gained recognition, from them just naturally proposing it. Like, hey,
Yeah,
to
I
your
mean,
point, like, hey, they're doing a segment. Would you mind? And this is why your name gets thrown around, or they're posting a picture and tagging you. So you're not having to ask for it. It's just natural.
yeah. I mean, it took me so long to ask my clients that like that for a testimonial. You know what I mean? Like,
I hate
when I
asking for testimonials.
yeah,
Everyone's
like when
always
I
on me
finally
about it.
really built my own website, I asked, I started asking all them, and they were like, "Sure, happy to."
Yeah.
But I just always felt so weird about doing that. You know what I mean? Whereas I know nowadays, I mean, trainers put picture of every single one of their clients on their. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they have permission, whatever. But I feel like that's like my clients don't want to be posted all over the internet. Most of them are like finance, high net worth. Like they don't want their pictures of them shirtless on the internet.
Yeah, that's like a private thing for them. So I think to your point, a good trainer is also going to be aware of what their clients are comfortable with and they'll ask permission for
Or
these
they know
things.
not to ask.
Or they know not to ask, exactly. So let's start. I want to start wrapping things up a little bit. So for you, for what's one piece of advice you'd give someone starting their fitness journey, and what would you say to people who are still wondering how they can verify the credentials or expertise of the person that they're with?
I think one of the things is slow and steady wins the race. So the slower the weight loss, the more sustainable. The slower you progress to building strength, the more sustainable and less risk, like things like that. So like people always want the end result, the yesterday, and those are always the people that either burn out or get hurt. And I find that if I can get people to understand that this is a process, it didn't, in 6 weeks, you didn't gain 40 pounds. You gained that
Hmm.
40 pounds over 6 years or whatever it is. It's not, if we want to do this right, that 40 pounds is not coming off in 6 weeks. Maybe 40 weeks, you know what I mean? Like, or something to that nature, like maybe a pound a week, maybe a pound and a half a week, right? And also, it's not linear. Like progression is not linear. It can be linear for a little bit, but inevitably you'll hit like stagnation points. And you might even hit points where you regress. But doesn't mean that the overall where you started, you're back. It just means you went up here, you came down a little bit. You're still at a much higher point than where you started.
100%.
So I think too, if you want to spot an expert or non-expert, an expert trainer will be logging everything you're doing on the training floor and have a program and be tracking everything. A non-expert will not have a program and everything will be different every time you go in the gym and everything is sort of like throwing spaghetti at the wall.
Well, yeah, to your point, because if you're not tracking, how do you know what to change or how they're progressing? Yeah.
I always tell my clients who come from those type of trainers, I'm like, listen, let me explain something to you. You're not just training muscles, you're not just training physiology, you're training the nervous system, you're training the brain, you're training motor skill development. I'm like, and I use this example. If you went to class on Monday and you took French, and on Tuesday you went and took Italian, and on Wednesday you went and took German, and Thursday was Russian, and Friday was Mandarin, and Saturday was Danish. 12 weeks. How good would you be at any one of those one languages?
It's like zero. How do you remember anything? Yeah.
So I'm like, listen, depending on the client, if there's somebody who's more advanced, they may have like two different workouts. But most of the clients, when they come to me in the beginning, especially, I call it the first phase is like kind of our on ramp. We're just kind of figuring out where they are and sort of like how hard can they train? How well do they recover? Right? How do they move? Are they someone who picks up movement quick, or are they someone who's like a motor moron?
Or
You
how
know what I
about just
mean?
establishing like behaviors, just feeling motivated to go to the gym? Or if I'm working with somebody like nutritionally, how well can you be consistent with your meals? You're actually going to go grocery shopping. You're actually going to weigh out your food or build your plate the way that I want instead of being, to your point, oh, I'm tired today. I'm not going to go or I'm going to cancel, because in the first month, they always want results. And it's just like, okay, well, let's talk realistically about what actually happened this month.
The same, like I have clients a lot of times that come to me and you could, they're ready, I want to train 6 days a week. Whoa, whoa, whoa. How about, and there's somebody who hasn't been training. Let's start with 2 days a week because we can always increase to three, right? Because this is someone who's not hasn't trained like in 6 months, a year, and they're going to go from that to 100 miles an hour and come and be able to make the gym 6 days. That's never going to happen. And then they're going to cancel, and then they're going to be upset because I'm charging them because they're canceling. I try to establish realistic expectations right out of the gate.
So I feel like that's so keys. And to your again, to the whole point of this topic, a good trainer is going to be truthful and honest in the beginning and establish the expectations from the get-go because they're going to ask all the right questions and understand, yeah, no, you're not showing up to the gym 6 days a week. We're going to start with two and we're going to go from there.
A good nutritionist and a good coach trainer, they meet the client where they're currently at,
Hmm.
and then they go from there. So that's a huge thing, I think.
I think so too. Well, Joe, thank you so much. I think that your expertise is definitely incredible. I mean, yeah, your clientele roster is definitely one to speak for itself as well. And you've had so much success just even on your own. So if anyone who's listening, how can they connect with you, learn more about your programs? Where are you on social? Where can they follow you? And yeah, if they're, I mean, they don't need to be in Miami, I guess they can work with you online. So
The best way to connect with me would be just through emailing me, like, if they wanted to actually ask me something
and
pertinent
I'll
or,
plug in your email in the episode too. So people, yeah.
I mean, I am on social media. To be honest, I'm not like your normal trainer on social media. It's all my dog. So if you like Rottweilers, you can follow me because she's on there all the time. She's amazing. I'm gonna make a better effort, I think, in the near future to do a little bit more on social media. I just hate it. Like I just,
It's the
I,
worst.
I just feel like I don't. I in Miami especially, you just see people walking around and they're just their entire life is they're filming themselves. And I'm
And they
just
got the selfie stick 24/7.
it's no way to live. I don't know. It just seems so weird to me. Anyway, that's a whole separate conversation. Anyway, I would appreciate. Thank you so much. I hope your audience enjoys it, and
Yeah.
yeah, I really enjoyed. Thank you for so much for having me on.
Do we want to real quick plug in maybe the little tease a little bit of the project that we got going
Yeah,
on?
I mean, I didn't know if we were allowed to, but if we're allowed.
I think so, absolutely.
So finally, we're going to finally, I'm going to finally offer a program that I'm going to feel very happy to be offering online, which is going to be, it's not one-on-one, but it's going to be like a very personal, like small group training and nutrition platform where we'll be accessible to our clients and we'll be first taking them through a very like set out, very like well mapped out 12-week program and which we basically are going to guarantee that if you don't get the results you want in that 12 weeks, we'll continue to work with you until you do.
Hmm.
I also find that, if people don't offer something like that and they just take the money, that's another like red flag to me. So
Yeah. And I
it'll
think
be
what I'm most excited about too for this is I mean, obviously everyone's trying to do online programs. So I think what makes ours really stand out is, I mean, one, our expertise, but like everything we kind of talked about today, everything in this program has those evaluations. We're meeting our clients where we're at and we're there online with them to recommend what they need to do and what changes they need to make in order to hit those goals. So it's almost like the most personalized general program you can receive.
yeah, I mean, like, and the program's really not for the newbie. I think this program is really about the person that goes, that's kind of a self-starter. They go to the gym already, male or female. They're just looking for something like that has a more structure, something that they can actually drive different training results, like effects, and build towards like, building lean mass, getting leaner, like kind of looking and feeling the best that they felt probably in decades. And to have two people to lean on for for proper advice and not your crazy stuff that you kind of typically hear on YouTube or TikTok or whatever.
Yep. And this is not AI generated, guys. This is our brains inserted into this. We've developed this all from scratch. So this is not just some
This was
internet
months and
program.
months
Yeah.
and
So
months.
yeah, you know it works. So super excited. I mean, when we release this episode, the program won't be released yet, but we will definitely keep talking about it and be sharing the information soon. So thank you again so much. Appreciate your time. And everyone who's listening, I will plug in all of his socials. If you want to connect with him, train with him, you definitely should train with him. He's phenomenal. And yeah, thank you all so much for listening and come back next week.